Well, hello.
Hey,
I think we're
morning, Ian.
live. How are
Yeah,
you, Greg?
that is such a loaded question these days. Yeah,
Isn't it?
I keep asking people that too, and I said, oh, okay, I kind of know, but yeah, personally, doing pretty well. World feels pretty crappy right now, so but
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
good stuff happening too. So reasons to
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. Always. Yeah, definitely. I similarly, I think so too, and I think that there's a lot of people that are feeling like that way, and so um I thought we would maybe jump on a conversation together because one of the things I've been noticing in this time, so we're recording on Thursday, January 29th, 2026, in the midst of an occupation by ICE of Minneapolis and St. Paul and
Metro surge.
Minnesota at large. We got a lot of stories. Yeah. What is Operation Metro Surge? Cool. Um, yeah. So there's a lot of people who have been reaching out and coming to Fabric, and I thought it would be maybe an interesting and good moment, an opportune moment to like hop on a call with you as the founding pastor of this thing called Fabric, to just have a conversation about like what the approach is and about people's need for connection with one another and with kind of the big questions to like wrestle with the big stuff. So, does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, I always love
Yeah,
talking about this because it's important stuff.
it is. Yeah. So, maybe could we just start with like you can introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about how did you end up becoming a pastor and what led to starting Jacob's Well that now is called Fabric, and yeah, how do you tell your story?
Like, I want to keep this short. I, you know, yeah, keep this short. So yeah, I was a math and science guy, and loved it. It was candy for me, just great. But as I dug into it in college, um, I started feeling like I really want to be studying stuff that like helps me become me. And as important as all the math and science stuff was and interesting, it was like I was putting myself on hold to master this stuff that's outside of me, and that just wasn't working. So I got lured over to the social sciences. Gradually, the dark side started taking religion courses and yeah, I'd had a background. I mean, grew up in the church and everything. Yeah. So in dark side. So then I went to seminary with the idea, well, this is great. It's academic, I'm going to study and I'll become, get my PhD and teach and so on and so forth. And during my time, I was at Yale Divinity School and a lot of things led to one another, but I've always been kind of the guy that said, like, what are the options out there? And okay, and which one seems the hardest? Okay, I'll do that one. And yeah, so I
Yeah.
scrapped the plans to teach, and I decided the front lines are like, can you make this stuff matter to people that are sitting in your church? Like, it's great talking to, and important to talk to a room full of students who chose to take your class or seminary students, but can you make this real enough that someone would bother to come and be part of this community and have that make a difference in their life? I mean, that was the ultimate challenge. So that, okay, sounds incredibly frustrating. I'll do it. And so that was kind of
Mm.
the short version of how I ended up becoming a pastor. And so then as pastor in Minneapolis here, a bunch of different things, but midway through my career, was a pastor in Minneapolis at a large growing church. Fabulous, wonderful, but I was really finding myself relating much better. So you have someone that joins your church and then they bring their spouse along, is not really that happy about it.
Yeah,
Those
they
were
get
my
dragged
people.
along.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And those are my people I really related to, and I think they were relating to me. And I gradually too, just my neighbors, living here in South Minneapolis, most of my neighbors didn't go to church. They had all the same values, all the same hopes and dreams, and so on as I did, or their own variation of it. But they did not have that community. They didn't have a way to articulate that spiritual side of themselves. And those are the people that I just like. I really care about them. And the way traditional church was operating, it just felt too narrow, missing the base, making way too many assumptions. And so, yeah, I did a bunch of experimenting, and I was, yeah. anyway, teaching stuff around the country and so on. And I finally decided, I just got to start this other kind of church, something, a church that people wore, not that they went to. And so that was, yeah, we called it Jacob's Well originally back in 2006 and morphed into Fabric, which was, I think, a better incarnation of the same community. And here we are.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm grateful as a so my background is ended up in a very similar place, but from a very different background. Like working in youth ministry forever. Like I was a youth director, and like finding that I was loving teaching confirmation classes, but I had no idea. I was recognizing like nobody actually knows what confirmation classes are for, and like you get asked 15 people like what's confirmation, you get 15 different answers. But what I really loved was like the incredible questions that teenagers were asking about stuff, because there were, like you said, all the assumptions about church, all the stuff we just put on people and say, no, surely you believe this. They were the brave ones to ask the question and say, no, no, we don't. Like what are you talking about? So like to be able to come and work as a pastor for a with a group of people who are asking that kind of question, and not assuming anything, but saying, there's some juice worth squeezing here, but we need space and time to do it. Like I love that. Yeah. So, there's a lot of metaphors that Jacob's Well Fabric has used over the last almost 20 years to kind of describe what it is and how we can participate in it. And I'm wondering, there's the three bowls. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. What are the three bowls?
So, okay. So, I mean, the basic idea is that we created Fabric to be what people actually need. We weren't trying to make people be like us, whatever, but like, where is all this stuff actually happening in you? And how can we shape a community, not around you're supposed to believe certain things or anything, but just around the real questions people have and how we actually grow and how we're actually wired to be. And, that's my whole take on what church is meant to be. Is I think it's intrinsic to us, which is why, at a time when the church is failing rapidly, I decided it was worth diving in and keeping this going, because I really do think it's intrinsic to us to join in this kind of community. And uh, but we've kind of, a lot of the church, established church, has lost that. It's, institution has taken over. And anyway, so the three bowls really represent something that we believed is intrinsic to us as human beings, and is a way for us to help organize what we would bother to try to do and help people participate in. Um, so the three bowls, they're bigger. I should have three bowls here to show you. I don't have them, but you can imagine a small bowl, and then that
I'll put
fits
the
into a little
image
bit
up
bigger
on the
bowl,
screen.
and then you got the big mixing bowl that both of those fall into. So let's just start with the really big one, right? The big bowl, that's our corporate gatherings when we all get together, typically Sunday morning, whatever it might happen to be, but that's when we all get together. And the purpose of that is, uh, well, there's a lot of things going on there. One of the biggest things actually is that I think it's really great to walk into a room and you see a bunch of other people. Hopefully, not so many you feel lost, but like a lot of people, you don't know everybody, but you know that the reason that you're here, other people are responding to that, and they're here too because these questions are important to them. This aspect of their life is important to them. To look around the room and see other people nodding or singing or whatever, being said, I am not alone. I am not the only person with all these crazy worries, questions, ideas, hopes, dreams. Other people have them too, and that's often a subconscious message that people receive. But I think they get it. Then also, hopefully there's some inspiration going on, whether it's through the music, through the environment. Um, you and me being preachers, hopefully through some of the stuff that we say. But we get that chance to stand, yeah, on a good day. We get to stand back and really look at some of this stuff and digest it. And I think, Ian, I think that's true with you. But, you gradually earn trust from people. Say, I am not the expert. I do not have all the answers. I'm not here about answers, but I have spent time digesting what's going on in people's lives, what's going on in the world right now. And I think this is something that we all need to talk about or all want to talk about. And I don't have the answers about it, but I think I've worked hard enough on it to really frame it up in a way that's going to be helpful for you, right? So I always saw preaching as my beginning of a conversation. I wasn't telling people what they're supposed to take away from, but I'm kicking off a conversation that will then continue for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and but that you will carry on with this. But I think there's that inspiration and that direction, a sense of leadership that happens there that people are looking for. They're busy, right? They're thinking about these things, they're worrying about them, but I'm paid full time to work on it and to digest it and to pull in all these resources and people and stuff like that and present it in a way that is open and hopeful. That's it. All that stuff. That's the big bowl. And I think we're looking for that. Yeah. We want to know we're part of a bigger community that cares about the same stuff we do. And we have friends and stuff like that. One of the problems there is that I'm getting fed, and gobbling all this stuff down, and it all sounds great, but then I walk out and I've got this big bowl in my arms. I don't know what to do with it all, right?
Yeah.
I need to digest that. I got to process all that, and so there's a middle sized bowl, and this is a smaller group of people who you share, care, trust, and grow with. That we use those words. You share what's going on with your life. In fact, it's automatic. Once you've created a bit of a relationship with these people, talking about real stuff in your lives, and you know each other personally and stuff like that. When something happens, good or bad, I mean, these are the people you want to tell about it, and you care for
Right.
each other. There's mutual care going on. There, you build trust over time, and then the process that is you grow. So this middle bowl is a place where you process those stuff, and those things of share, care, trust, and grow happen. I think this is intrinsic. This is the family sort of thing that that is just natural for us as human beings. And it really it takes all that stuff we threw at people on Sunday and gives people a chance to own it, to process, figure out what is my take on this, how do I see it, and you do that with each other. People you agree with, people you don't agree with, but you get to sit there and talk, and and because you've learned to trust each other, it's okay. Then you got this last
Yeah. And
bowl,
it's
the
like
little
a
one.
place where you really get to name that, like, what I heard on Sunday kind of rubbed up against something in me, and I got to figure this out. But I couldn't do that live
Right.
in that Sunday gathering or whatever. But I need a place and a people to do that with.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, um, we may intend to do it, but if there isn't that group of people that's waiting for you and expecting you to show up, will you ever process it? You know,
Right.
and hopefully it is stuff that matters. This wasn't just our take on, some technicality of the Trinity, but we're talking about,
Yeah.
are you dealing with those relationships that are troubling you, or, kind of stuff
Yeah.
that, yeah. Anyway, it's real stuff. So that last bowl is just you. It's you and your personal practices, spiritual practices. Like, what are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? Um, uh, what are you doing to help yourself grow to, I don't know, whatever goals that you have for yourself right now, or just what feels, um, dealing with some of the hurting places in your life, or reaching for some of the hopes and goals, dealing with relationships, uh, you know, are you reading? Are you writing? Are you meditating? But we have those, and I think there's there becomes a feedback loop going back and forth between these. As I carry on to my own personal practices, I bring them to group and group talks and so on, and that stuff comes back to me and to other people in the gathering. I mean, a lot of what we do on Sundays, like a series that we would decide to take on, comes from stuff that we're hearing from groups, or at least I did that. I'm sure you just know the answers, so you just know
Yeah.
what to do. But
But yeah, it's just
yeah,
inherent,
right, right.
basically. Yeah.
But and we test things out too that way. But the conversation that flows between what I do personally, and then maybe share with people that are actually in my household, if I have a partner, or grown kids, friends, whatever, and then what's happening in my group, and then what's happening on Sunday mornings. I think they inform each other all the way back and forth, and we try to do it Sunday mornings. We try to give suggestions or give fodder for the groups that they know they have some direction what to go with. We'll help people practice personal practices on Sunday morning, and I know that has continued, so that they just oh, hey, that's something I can try right now, and take it home and use it, and so on. And then people bring us ideas back, from their own personal practices. So I think it's a really important thing. But the key piece to it all uh, is one that we aren't trying to put this on people. I mean, having people do all these other things doesn't make my job easier or something like that. No, it's just what it means to be a human being. It's how one lives in community. Those aspects are just all real and they're all present. And we want to help people not bypass these things. And that's, I guess, the other thing is, at a time like this in Minneapolis, there's a lot of hurt. And when you ask me how I'm doing, that just automatically came up. We're in a crisis here, and so people all of a sudden right now work real hard on doing some of these different practices in order to touch that. They might be showing up at Fabric. They might be deciding to be in part of a group, or they might start doing some of their own personal practices. Even helping with the food shelf or whatever those things. Those are personal practices. Um,
Yeah.
but what happens when life normalizes? Do our needs to do
Mm.
those things stop? No. But when the hurt is gone, we stop taking care of, we stop building ourselves up. So I think, again, being a part of a committed community is really important. It helps us, be part of these things for the long haul, not just for the crisis. And that's, I
Yeah.
think one of our goals, one of our jobs as a community is to help people be in this stuff for the long haul.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I when I look at the reality that we're in right now, it's really easy for me to find the hurt places. Like I've watched neighbors get detained. I've I've been in conversation with my actual neighbors who aren't going to work and they aren't going to school, and that causes me pain because I love my neighbor. My kids, I hope that my kids are okay in this moment because their classmates aren't in school, and so that it's easy in excuse me, in these crisis moments it's really easy to identify the hurt places. But when the crisis dies down, what I have found is like that like right in front of my nose burning fire kind of pain subsides, but there's hurting places in me all the time. Like there's always a need for me to explore those nuanced old parts that need to be tended to and need to get have some tension, added in order to be able to do anything with it. Um, I was you reminded me of Valerie Kaur, who was just in town this past weekend to be with organizers and community members and immigrants and clergy and whatever. And I just want to read this quote to kind of get everyone else on the same page here. But she said, "I've just returned from Minneapolis, where I was on the ground with faith leaders, organizers, and immigrant families. Alex Preddy was murdered by ICE while we were there. Minnesota is a new ground zero for the brutality this administration is willing to inflict on immigrants, on people of color, and on the neighbors who stand up to protect them. The people of Minnesota have responded by organizing block by block, heart to heart, creating networks of care unlike anything I have seen. What's happening in Minnesota is coming for your community if it hasn't already. We must learn from their blueprint of love."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that to me really speaks to that need. Um, like Minneapolis has been practiced at building networks of care and mutual aid, and knowing our neighbors enough to be able to care for them and receive care from them. Going back not just to George Floyd in 2020, not just to, but back for many many years. This is an established practice that Minnesota has gotten into, and so
Yeah.
to me it really highlights the need for this kind of community, for like investing myself in a long haul kind of way, not just in moments of crisis, right? It's like you said, like
Right.
come for the crisis but stay for the long haul because this is important stuff.
Right. Right. The other
Yeah,
piece of that you're really highlighting for me, Ian, is we're showing up for each other, right? I'm showing up as a constitutional observer, not because it's for me, but because that person needs me to be doing that. Our participation in the communities that we're a part of, whether it is a fabric or whether it's, I don't know what other kind of groups you have, a team or whatever, but you're there for yourself. Like, I want this, and and these people, you're also there for them. Like, you show up for yourself, but you also show up for other people. And sometimes even when maybe I don't really feel like it, like I don't really want to go. Well, do other people need me there? And I think that's important to know. Yeah, you're actually needed, and you play a purpose, and you're there for those other people, just like they're there for you. And so remembering that, I think, is also important. It helps us stay in these things for the long haul. It helps us, ride out the ups and downs. And I think, one of our big things too is talking about being focusing on our purposes, not our preferences. Our preferences, are all like, I don't really feel like going this week, or I don't really care what they're talking about, or is it about this larger purpose? Like, what is my purpose in being there? And, what might I learn that I don't know or don't want to learn, or whatever. But yeah, we're here for each other, and it's a long haul. It's a lifestyle. It's understanding who we are and what community is about and how community works and how we as individuals fit into that. And I don't know. Fabric is an experiment to try to figure out how to embody that.
right.
So
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that, like, the older I get, the more I'm realizing that, where I used to just show up to stuff that I was interested in, or that, like you're talking about, uh, preferences versus purposes, right?
right,
And it's always easy to show up when I'm interested in the topic, when I can get something out of it, when it's, you know, um, practically helpful to me, that kind of thing. But the older I've gotten, and the more, and maybe it's just the number of crises that we're going through, or whatever, like, showing up so that I can be a person with other people. Like, I think people are a lot less people without people. Like, we need to be, we are social beings by virtue of being. And showing up, even if it's not for me, but, like, because the connection matters, and because, it when I need when I show up somewhere and I need people, I'm always grateful that they're there. And so
yeah,
sometimes it's like I got to show up in my community, whether it's on the street corner, or at the school event, or to a church, to fabric, to whatever. But I need to show up because other people need me to be there, just like I need them to be there, because we need each other.
that's how we
Like
work.
that, there's something in there for me that, um yeah,
There's got to
that's
be
it.
something about how all the threads weave
what's
together to
what's
make a
your
fabric, right? Who would ever notice that one is pulled out, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's called fraying.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
exactly.
weave your
Well, and right now, I think we're seeing what happens when a very particular vision for community, or a country, um, gets in the driver's seat, and is really based on power and domination rather than on people. Um,
yeah,
and, like, this vision for the world that's being thrust on Minnesota right now, it really is working to fray, to un you know there's a lot of threads being pulled on to undo the fabric of all that is, and we're seeing it and we're feeling it. Mm,
and
I hate
Minnesota's
that for us.
responding. I'm very proud to be a Minnesotan right now.
Yeah, me too. What's your hope for people, um whether it's, locally here in the Twin Cities, people who are learning about fabric, or curious about getting involved in sort of a third space to be able to do some of this human stuff. Like, what's your, or outside of Minnesota, who are kind of wondering, how can I actually prepare for something like this, that's happening?
Yeah.
What's your hope for people in this moment? Big question.
that's a big and broad one. My hope is kind of thinking about communities like Fabric, and yeah, yes, they are churches. I avoid that word simply because it means something that's been co-opted from what the real community I think that church is meant to be. But it is an intrinsic need. We need to gather around these spaces that have all, three strands that we talk about: our deepest self, all others, including all things, and then that which is God, however you understand it. No matter how we articulate that third strand, it is never big enough and whole enough to encompass it. But we need places to wrestle with that and to be real together around that sort of stuff. That isn't something that's imposed, but with church, I think, having gotten stuck in trying to make people like it, um, people have then thrown out the baby with the bathwater. That role that church plays also got tossed. We don't have good, and then I think, you know, um, getting connected via internet and so on has changed the kind of connections. We're the most connected and the most lonely generation ever. So um, my hope is that we're going to get past this and people are going to realize, yeah, I really do need that. And so to encourage people, like if you are, there's people at, Fabric, a growing community at Fabric that really knows this and believes this, and they're trying it. And we know it's hard and it's imperfect, but come and be part of it with us. If you're wanting to do it someplace else, people are people. This is a real need, and people are looking for this. They're hungry for it, even if they've got defenses that automatically reject it because of some stories that they've bought, or what how they've understood the church to be in the past. It's interesting. It can happen in your community as well, and it's not that hard because all it means is being real and talking about this real stuff and honest about it. So you can do it. um, and it yeah so be patient and work on this, find people, and build it, and build healthy wells. There are great guides, I'm sure. Ian, myself, and others, have we've learned some stuff in these last years that can be helpful in ways that pull us together better or not. But don't give up. Yeah. Find the community you need. Other people are looking for it. Get together, make it happen.
Yeah, that's a good final word. I think we'll put some in. There's we're gonna post this where we post it on YouTube and Podbean and Apple Podcasts, all that. So we'll put some links to some helpful resources and some of what we've talked about in the show notes. But Greg, I want to thank you for tending to this and having this conversation together. I think it matters deeply, and I'm grateful to be in this work with you, and I love you.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you.
Likewise, and have a good trip and some time away, as well as getting some work done.
Yeah, totally. All right, take good care.
All right.